Dale, I've got a great episode for you here today. Again, it's from the Enterprise Excellence community. It's us discussing with Mr. Jeff Naylor everything to do with quality and also root cause. You'll hear a number of the community members talking, but the insights that Jeff gives are just amazing. Everyone, there is content up on the Enterprise Excellence podcast website around root cause, but also you can reach out to Jeff very easily through Sirf RT or Sirf Round Tables and be able to get more details. I'd really recommend that if you do want to get involved in some of these community events that we run, just reach out to me via LinkedIn or the Enterprise Excellence podcast website under Contact Us. Be glad to get you involved. We've got upcoming guests from all over the world, best practice organizations, but also experts talking and sharing. It's just a great opportunity to engage and actually discuss pertinent questions that you've got in your own mind, as you'll hear some of our members do throughout this episode. Let's get down to it, and I hope you'll gain a lot of value from the show.
Welcome to the Enterprise Excellence Podcast, where we share knowledge from global experts in how to create high-performance, agile cultures of continuous improvement and innovation. Cultures where employees wake up smiling and excited to go to work and make a difference. Cultures where leaders feel they have the time to proactively serve the growth of themselves and others.
I'm your host, Brad Jevons, coming to you from Brisbane, Australia. By improving our organisations, we create a better future for generations to come. An economy where our children and grandchildren can experience the joy of owning their first home. An environment where they can enjoy holidays on clean beaches and marvel at the beauty of nature. A future where they feel safe, respected, and empowered to make a difference at work, bringing that energy home to their families and communities. This show is proudly brought to you by the Enterprise Excellence Community and Group, which is focused on helping organisations create this better future through this podcast, our community, where you can engage with global experts, tour best practice sites, and also our workshops focused on the most important topics to truly help your organisation improve into the future for those it serves. Visit enterpriseexcellencegroup.com.au to learn more. Welcome to episode 194 of the Enterprise Excellence Podcast.
It is such a pleasure to have Mr. Jeff Naylor on the podcast and community event with us today. Jeff is the Managing Director of Sirf Round Tables, an organisation truly focused on helping organisations create a better future. Through Sirf Round Tables, they do all sorts of amazing things around operational excellence and maintenance and all topics. But a particular one, which I experienced many years ago, was around root cause analysis and quality. It's going to be such a great episode. Let's get to it. Mr. Jeff Naylor, Sirf Round Tables with the Enterprise Excellence community. Okay, so everyone, we've got an amazing presentation today. It's Jeff and I are talking like it's a one percenter, this piece of quality and root cause analysis, but it's like literally a 99 to 100%er because it's so critical. When it comes down to it, without a baseline of quality and root cause capability, Jeff and I are talking, there's all sorts of things that play out. I won't go into it because we'll get into it today. Everyone, I got trained by Sirf RT probably 15 years ago. Oh, good. Woods Group coming on. Probably about 15 years ago. It was the best, one of the best, if not the best training I've ever had. And it set me up on a clear path to understand the importance of a baseline of quality and root cause and how it actually brings you wings. And without it, you actually don't have wings. I don't want to go into too much more discussion on it. Jeff and I are going to have a brief chat on a few topics now, and it will sort of set the scene. And then everyone, please think of questions, because this topic is so important and it's something that we often don't get time to think about, is quality and root cause. So as you're hearing Jeff and I talk for the first few minutes, please just think of questions and think, right, what do I want to know? Because I guess the thing I know is a company that can shift to a position where quality is really paramount, and we do it with people and do root cause well with it too and build that culture, they get agility, they get performance, they get amazing outcomes. So Jeff, mate, let's get into it. Why is root cause analysis and quality so important?
Well, I think I've been thinking about this a bit since you sent me some questions as a prelude to this. And the reality is quality affects everything across all businesses, right? So the quality of analysis, the quality of product, the quality of standardization, the quality of our reputation. It's just everywhere. So it all comes back to me to consistency of process and purpose, and that's where RCA comes in. It's like the Bible to me of how we go about things, and so you're looking at variation in any point. So, and RCA is all about strong analysis. It's not shooting from the hip and doing reactive mode. There's way too much of that going on these days, and we all seem short of time. But we don't have time to put out a fire with a fire extinguisher, even though we're surrounded by fires, seemingly, as we were talking about before. But quality is, I look at RCA, and I've been delivering this training for 11 years now, and probably come out to 250 workshops. So it's been a real journey, and lots of learning from people that I've trained and people that I've worked with in companies, and seen lots of things. So, but yeah, quality it's just embedded in everything. So I'm trying to break it down to pick out individual things, but it actually covers the whole breadth. So things like out of spec in terms of food safety, we've got CCPs to worry about, critical control points. We've got food safety issues that we need to control. We can have a lot of WIP in process lines that is there because it's not quite right, or we don't have the right parts or materials, or we've got rework going on. We've got second stock that we need to sell cheap to customers because we didn't do it right in the first place, or we've got to blend out of stock back in with virgin material so we're just creating chaos everywhere that I look. There must be something in it, because I've been doing more RCA training in the last 12 months in 2024 than I did in any previous 2 years put together. And this year already, I've got bookings out to July, and I'm already in a week or so I'm away for 13 days in February. So it's just going gangbusters. But I'm not surprised. But when I look back from the heady days of the 80s and 90s, and some of us are old enough to remember that, maybe not Jim, but some of us are old enough to remember those heady days. And what strikes me is Ron Moore used to say, it always stayed in my mind, we get great results when we do the basic things extraordinarily well. And I just don't see a lot of that in a lot of places, people taking shortcuts. And we have less people in a lot of environments to do the work, but we have the finesse still needs to happen. So we have a lot of people jumping to cause and solution, and in that I'd say there's a lot of people saying we've been entrenched with this behaviour though for our careers. So here's a problem, give us a solution. So people jump onto the first thing. But when you teach a whole workforce to do that, I've seen, as an example, I saw a winery with a new whole line going, and they were having troubles with it. So I said, "What's going on?" So I said, "Are you doing 5 Ys?" Yeah, we're doing 5 Ys. We did a 5 Y there Tuesday. We made 5 changes. The next step along the process, we did a 5 Y there, and we did 3 changes. And this went on along the line, and they'd made 15 changes in 1 week on the same line. And all that's happening there is we're getting this whiplash right down the line and no stability anywhere. So variation is the enemy to me. Mm. And when I do analysis and I train people, it's all about what is the right thing that should be happening at this point, and how do we make that happen? And to me, there's 2 ways to look at problems. One is, we have a problem here, I'm going to make a change. So that deliberate intent of making a change. It could be, I already have a change in mind, because often we feel that pain, and we've been feeling the pain before we get anywhere near doing analysis. So there's that way, and that leads to, at the extreme, 1,000+ drawing updates in the backlog, because we're just doing rapid change after rapid change, and we're not embedding anything in to finesse it. And the opposite of that is, we've got a problem here. what should be happening as a standard at this point in the process or at this stage, and where are we compared to that, and how do we get back to it? So here's our standard. Here we are. This is what we've got to do to get back there. And it's thought, take a breath and stabilise, and then the tail whips a little less, and you see what the next issue is and what the next issue is. So it's critical to get on the right path as early as possible in processes, in my opinion, so you can stabilise as early as possible and keep that stability happening and happening. For example, I talk about in the training two different plants running exactly the same piece of kit, and one plant's running that piece of kit at 140% of nameplate capacity and looking at where they're going to get the next 5% from. The other plant, they say, well, we've never got it past 90% and we don't even think it's capable of 100%. So what do we think's driving that process? What does anyone think? Can I get someone to respond? What do we think's driving that process? Why is one plant seeing 140% and striving for the next 5%? And where's it going to come from? And the other plant can't ever get past 90%.
What's your thoughts, team? What's your thoughts? You got that one that's same plants, one so far ahead, the other one at 90 and not going forward.
They're all quiet, I'll say.
What do we think? Here comes Andy.
I just think, there might be that culture there around, how they're continuously improving and they're able to, exploit the capacity of the machines. I think also, what's the customer demand in that place? Is it something that's
so exactly right.
Still okay in delivering? I'm not sure.
Culture is exactly the word I was looking for. Well done. It's but it's really a mindset. But the mindset is the whole of the organisation, and for that to happen, it has to be driven from the top and supported from the top. So whilst we might say we might have a senior manager that says, "Get me some training. I want these people trained in RCA." And right, I've ticked that box. Now I want them to do an RCA on every problem. Well, they won't do anything else because they'll be drowning in RCAs, excuse me, and they won't be able to complete them because they probably don't have the resources or the money to do it. So we need to be picking our targets carefully and going after the ones that matter with intent. Yeah. So it's not doing RCA and everything. And by the way, RCA is the entire process of root cause analysis. And there's a whole range of tools under there. So there's 5 whys, fishbone diagram, comparison tables, cause trees, fishbone for solution, etc., etc. And we can pick and choose the problem or these tools that we use based on the problem we're facing. And root cause analysis, I hear a lot people saying we've got to get to the root cause. Yes, we've got to get to the root cause, but maybe that's not where we make the change because it's a really difficult environment to do that manual activity, and we need to go 1 or 2 steps up the 5 why on that branch to automate something so we eliminate that possible thing from happening again. So there's lots of different complexities with this. There's so many layers to RCA, it's hard to talk about what I would really like to talk about in an hour. So
yeah, it's a massive topic, but so important, isn't it? Yeah, the question I wanted to ask, mate, was I've experienced a lot in the Australian culture where I've mainly worked in that we don't, I don't know, it's a belief like Andy said, where there's this belief of we don't have time for quality, we don't have time for root cause. We potentially there's even a belief of it slows us down, like process restricts us or doing root cause is a waste of time. What do you feel drives that, and how would you recommend people going about actually starting to navigate out of that and get to a place where we got that foundation of calmness and quality and skills and root cause?
So I've seen that many times. I've actually experienced a dinner plant I was running, and people were complaining they didn't have time to do structured problem solving. And so I said, okay, well, so you've got time to do rework, and you've got time to do more changes than necessary to go back and rerun what we messed up the first time. And you've got time to work on weekends to not see your family, to get the product out that we need to get out. And then they started to realise that that wasn't maybe where they wanted to be in life. So it really started to get some traction when we said, let's just stabilise this, and we worked on obviously the Pareto, or what were the biggest issues, and let's just tackle one. We've got all of these things going on. Let's just tackle one and get it down a bit. So we got it down, and people start, eventually people start getting the belief, but it comes back to this getting the stability and getting the belief that you can make change happen. Even when I had a machine running like a piece of crap. Honestly, it was really, really bad. And I said to the one of the maintenance guys, he was a shop steward, said, "Look, we've got a problem with this line. It's losing money. We're going to end up losing the whole line. There's multiple people hanging off it for wages. So if we don't fix it, we're in trouble. Do you think you have the capability to fix it?" And he says, "Yeah." He was a big shop steward guy. I said, "Yep, I can fix it." I said, "You're sure? How many weeks do you need?" He said, "I'll need 3 weeks." 2 weeks, he said. I planned 3 in the schedule because I knew he'd be a bit slower because I knew how he worked. I said, "Do we have the parts, or can we get the parts still?" Because it was an old piece of equipment. He said, "Yeah, we can still get the parts. I'll look it up." He came back to me and said, "Oh, it's going to cost 20 grand." I said, "Done. Let's get them in." He said, "Really?" And what I realised at that point was the maintenance department had been bashed around, and he felt like, or they collectively felt like, they were just seen as a cost. Yeah, and it wasn't a contributing entity of the whole betterment, for the betterment of the business. So anyway, he got the parts in, he did this machine up, and at the end of it, I said to him, "How about we get program maintenance in? We'll get them to give it a coat of paint." "No, they'll just put a coat of jam on it. I want to do it myself." So then he had pride in the machine. Next thing, the equipment's running really well. We get to the next management meeting, and I'm in there, and the plant manager says, "That line ran really well this week. We made money on it." Yeah, that was Craig's job, and they already had a bad feeling about how Craig was as a worker. So it really changed that belief, and that's all. To me, that's all part of it. I'm sorry if I've drifted off your question a little bit, but to me, that's all part of it. The end results, the quality results, come from people. We can say we're running a system, but unless the people engage in that system, then it won't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And if
it's nice. So
if they're doing it from a compliance base, you just say, "Yeah, you've got to do a 5Y if you have so many minutes downtime." They'll do a 5Y, but depending on the culture, it'll be a compliance 5Y, and it won't be worth the paper it's written on. But hey, I've done my 5Y because you told me to. That's completely different than having someone engaged that comes up with creative ideas that we can not have to go and do this again.
I can really hear there, Jeff, that you created more, spoke to the purpose of that, which is saving jobs and creating calmness, and then you involved the employees in it, and you got the great outcome.
Yeah, it was really good. And after that, it was in a regional town in Victoria, and I was at a hotel having dinner with my family, and he was there with his wife. I saw him across the room, so he brought his wife over and introduced her to us, and that was a really good moment. So
yeah, it's nice. Hey, Jeff, with it in one thing, I've got a question on this topic of how you actually go about it is, I see a lot of people can plan an intervention or plan an improvement after doing root cause, and then they'll do it, but then they won't check anything or monitor it going forward to monitor performance, and have no way of really confirming, did what I do sustain or hold? So that whole PDCA quality cycle just not in place. What's your thoughts about that, and how we can help organizations improve in that thinking as well?
Yeah, I think the PDCA is really important, but in my mind, before we start doing anything, the bow tie is the first discussion to have, to make sure that we're actually getting to the right problem. Because when people look at problems in facilities, they go directly initially to where the pain is felt, and the pain is felt in consequences, not in causes. So we have to identify and understand in our mind, even to the point where they will name a problem and be talking about a problem and put it up on the issue list and be talking about it for probably a month before anything's done about it. And that is the name of the pain, likely the pain in the consequence area. And when they start doing an RCA, that's the first thing that gets written down in step 1, and they're already off track. Only just written a name down. So we have to get back to what is the point where we lost control as the global standard of the initial point in the middle of the bow tie. What is the point where we lost control? Or you might think of it another way of, we would have kept going apart from this happened. Yeah. So it's that sort of mindset. But then we've got to work out, well, what are the causes that led to that? And there are generally several. And we've got to find out which causes were in play and which weren't in play. So building that cause tree, and then work out what causes can we address with what countermeasure, and do those as discrete. These have to. It's all fact-based analysis, right? So these causes have to be factual causes, and they have to be discrete. So we could take one countermeasure and address one cause. You might be lucky enough that the same countermeasure addresses multiple causes, but we have to be able to definitely get to them and trial them and put the countermeasures in place, and then, what were we before, and then go and check in after a certain amount of time, did we get the result we were after, and did we keep hold of it? Because I've seen many times in industry where we've made some off-the-cuff change based on poor analysis. We've made a change. Did we get hold of the results? Yeah, we got the results in the first place, but we didn't embed it properly. So someone's come back from leave and they know that that's not what the procedure says, so they put it back to what the procedure says, and bingo, here we go again. We're around the mulberry bush again.
Yeah. So it's understand the causes, root causes, or all the causal factors first, and then actually take the right steps through plan to check act to really get it and secure. Jeff, just for listeners, I think you mentioned the cause tree. So I think for those that don't know it, the cause tree is like 5 whys, but you can have multiple symptoms. So you can have like this tree root, think of like tree roots going down. That is actually what's actually driving it. You might have a better way to describe it, Jeff, than what I did just then.
It's like a tree, but on its side. So, and causes are generally on the left, and countermeasures on the consequences on the right, and then in the middle is the point where we lose control there. So, or the top event, that's called. So causes I think that's heading to your left. So you can have different branches, and at each level along the 5 whys they branch out more and more. So I guess another thing with cause trees is, I've seen many companies really balk at biting at doing RCAs fully because it takes a long time to do the cause trees. And so I don't profess to support 2 days with 5 people in a room building a cause tree that you won't use 90% of. You have to work out what are the first level causes and which are the main ones in play, and build those branches out with intent and park the rest or stop them to say there was nothing in play there. And that's very efficient use of time, and you can get a long way with a cause tree in an hour rather than taking 5 people's time for 2 days. Just a ridiculous waste of time.
That's insightful. And yeah, with it, like an organization, we've spoken a lot about getting that, root cause capability and actually starting there, and then also building in then a proper quality approach using the quality cycle, or actually, making sure that we put it in the right way, the countermeasures or the improvements, and have that whole quality process going. What main challenges do you see in organizations actually achieving this? What do you see as the main barriers that people actually go to the place where we put time to this critical stuff to create calmness, to create quality performance?
So I think some of it is we've got to build confidence. We've got to start small. We've got to build confidence. I can see Jim nodding, so I must be somewhere on the right path here. So confidence for the people who are the practitioners who are going to do the RCAs, and confidence for the management team that are going to give the okay and approval for resources and money and all the rest. Yeah. So it's like a marriage, if you like. We've got to be doing sound analysis and making recommendations that make genuine business sense, and making the decision-making process for managers as easy as possible. Yeah. So we could do nothing and live with the pain. We could do this change and for this amount of money and solve, maybe 50, 60% of the problem, but it'd be payback of a week. We could do this change, which would spend an extra 10%, but it'll get us all the way there. Or, we could gold plate it and we get this other in capital expenditure, but we get this other advantage out of that. Or some way we've got to sell options to managers to make that decision-making process as easy as possible. And if we start small and we put in a change and we get a good result, the manager's confidence in our analysis goes up, and the confidence of the practitioners goes up because the team got a good result and the manager's happy with it, and everyone in the place can see it. And you create pockets of excellence like that, and then other departments look across the fence and they go, oh, something good's going over there. They're getting recognition somewhere. What did they do? Oh, well, can we do some of that over here? So then you get this pull happening, and that is a seed for changing culture. And as we've talked about the heady days of the 80s and 90s, what we had was great culture. We had great culture of people wanting to get on board and wanting to make our plant or our facility the best it could be. I was in plants in Corning Fibre Optic. We were running the best in the world, and went around presenting around the world on what we'd done. So we have the capability in Australia, but we need to now get back to that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Team, I'm going to open up the questions of the community literally in a moment. So please think of questions, because like we're talking about, this is paramount to a company moving forward, is actually really getting that position. But one quick question I've got before I open up is, Jeff, what do you feel created the shift from where in the 80s and 90s, many plants they were willing to put the time into the 1%ers into this important area and really get it right and get high performance. Whereas there's been a shift now where I guess you and I were talking before the show that we feel like there's just so much more reactivity going on out there, and willingness to live in the fire. What do you think changed?
I think there's lots of things changed. One might be we let the cost accountants get too much say. And I've seen companies, big mining companies with fantastic reliability departments, and they achieved great reliability. And a cost accountant came in and swept the whole thing away because we were reliable. Now we don't need you. Right. So it's like a sawtooth curve, if you like. It takes a long time to build up, and then you get stability, but it can be eroded very quickly, and it just down you go. So that's one of them. And there's, in terms of costs of manufacture and labour costs in Australia in particular, our costs don't stack up greatly in many ways. So we've stripped out labour, so we've got less people to run the same facilities. And then, more recent times we had COVID, where we had people working remotely in roles that probably shouldn't have been. We also had people changing not just jobs or departments or sites or companies, but industry sectors. So we've, if you like, we've thrown all the cards of people up in the air, and they've fallen like autumn leaves to where they've fallen into different industry sectors and companies. And even that baseline training of working at heights and permits and all that sort of stuff has had to be redone and stabilised. And now I think we're seeing the wave of stabilisation of problem-solving techniques, because people have come with different ones from different places and talking different language. And when you talk different language with problem-solving and root cause analysis, you get different outcomes. So that stability of process and purpose comes from driving one program, and whatever that program is, they all work. It's the application that fails.
Yeah, wow, that's insightful. It's insightful. I've got one piece I think I see, and I don't know your thoughts on this too, Jeff. I feel like even technology nowadays is making people more shoot from the hip. Like everything's like so just in time that we feel like we got to react fast. I feel like that causes some damage too, because
Yeah, well,
we're actually programmed to just react.
I think we're all overloaded with emails. We're in the generation of AI and smart machines, so we're vulnerable to just take that information on blindly and take it as the right option and get sucked into the first option that faces us. And I think there's sometimes where that's the right move, and there's probably a lot of times where we maybe should have made some different decisions there. But I think the generation of AI and future generations, I think we're dumbing down people. We're creating systems so that people can feed off those, and that's all they want to do, or all they seem to be taking on, and so the amount of intellectual horsepower that people are personally injecting is less, I think, because they're just overwhelmed.
Yeah, too much noise. I see Shelley put into the chat 100% can't see the signal in all the noise. So too much noise, and so we can't see the signal or the priority to deal with.
At the end of the day, just in response to that, Shelley, if we can't see the signal for the noise, we've got to get back to let's pick on one problem and make sure we get to the center of the bow tie and focus on that, and go by your Paretos. What I would recommend, which are the biggest ones. And I've had RCAs where we've had 9 different root causes leading to the problem, and we couldn't even see the small ones until we got rid of the big ones.
Yeah, neat. So, team, what questions have you got, or even contributions have you got? Let's open up and have a chat. Feel free to come off mute, or to put your hand up, or to go into chat. What do we got? Jan, what do you got, mate? What's your thoughts?
I do have a question. In operations, we're often on the receiving end. So, meaning we have a quality incident, the respective department would say, okay, first thing you do is do an RCA, and then let us know how you get on with it. So, what Jeff mentioned before, an RCA is not always needed. So, what guidance is there, maybe, Jeff? What criteria do you apply to work out what level of problem solving is required? Like if it's a one-off, maybe minor or repeat, or is a bit of a guideline there that we can refer to?
So if you're running, good question, Jan. If you're running a process and you have an issue and you have a quality issue, then the first thing I would recommend you do is that reactive activity to put safety nets and temporary fixes in place to make sure that you can keep processing and stop the bleeding. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got to stop the pain before we then step back, do the analysis. So I'm not trying to convince people to not do that reactive activity. It has to happen. Yeah. Otherwise it costs the business a lot of money. But in terms of the severity of the problem, you as a company have to set your triggers to what rates as a 5Y, what rates as a 5YA3 as an intermediate problem, and what rates as an RCA, and what rates as an ICAM, so that whether it's a safety incident or not.
Do you have example how that looks like, Jeff?
Well, I think I can probably get you an example, no problem, but it depends on your business, because some businesses say you do an RCA when you have $2 million of downtime. And other smaller food plants might say you do an RCA when you have $5,000 of downtime. So it's a table, if you like, of criteria that you make up for your business, and only you as a business know the pain levels that you're willing to accept. But what I'd say is, if you're going to set that up, don't set the triggers too tight to start with, because you'll drown people in requirements for these to happen. You're better off to have it not trigger so many, and then have them trigger successfully so that they get successfully resolved, and then you can look at tightening those up as you get the right outcomes. Outcomes first, and then tighten the triggers.
Yeah, Jeff, I love your language on using the Pareto chart too. Like, I guess I see a lot of companies where they start to implement cause charts or Pareto charts on critical elements of their operation. And then those top bars can start to give you some insight too, can't they? Like,
Yeah.
I think that I see the Pareto chart is the most underused tool nowadays, where it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And like a lot of particularly tradespeople, they start looking at a problem, and the first thing I want to identify as the problem, they're talking about root cause, not the problem itself. So they can almost be backwards on where their thinking is from where we want them to be. And so it's convincing them that, hang on, that's right down further down the end. We've got to get there. There might be other things that are causing this as well. Let's have a good look at it. So yeah, it's there's so many nuances and not just the techniques or the tools, but the people factors. And I've seen so many different ways to look at this stuff. Even people who have had autism that I've trained have a very different way of looking at the same thing. And after delivering the training for 5 years, I had someone say something and go, "Wow, that's a different. I've never thought about that way. But I'm going to take some of that into the course." So I've had those. That don't happen so much now after 11 years, but at the early start, it was really full on. Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Jan. Sean, I see you got your hand up.
Oh, yes. Thanks, Brett. Now, I just want to circle back to the conversation, just a sharing. When we talk about why most of the time we don't have the time to do problem solving, I think I believe everyone has something to offer on the table, right? Because with experience and skill, I think what fail most of the time is that most of the organization, the leaders fail to create time and space for them to do problem solving. So I believe that if the leaders create space and time, the quality of the root cause analysis will be much better. And I agree with you in previous session that you got there, Brett. The ability of the team to define the context of the problem solving is so important, because if you don't get the problem solving context right, it could drive a different direction during the root cause analysis. Yeah, that's something I want to share.
I think, Sean, on what you've said there too, mate, I've seen it in a lot of companies where the quality manager will be the only person involved in the root cause event. Like, it's like, yeah, we do root cause. Well, what do you do? Oh, I go away in a room and I do root cause myself. And what do you do with it? I load it to the software. But how does that help you? And it's like, wow, that's an interesting one. I don't know your thoughts on that, Jeff. Do you see that too, Jeff?
I think it's a great point you raised, Sean, and I totally agree. The Japanese call it go to the gemba, and going to the one source of truth, which is that at the production line or machine or process or whatever it is where the issue is happening, and talk to the people who run it. Because these people run it 8 hours a day, they're likely to know 95% of the way through there what's wrong with it, and or be able to give good indication. Where you see cultures where maintenance and operations are at loggerheads a lot, that's where you experience the machine's broken down. It's yours now, Mr. Maintenance Person, and give it back to me. I'll be at the canteen. Give it back to me when you're finished. But what we want is that engagement between the two of them, that they're actively pursuing a solution together, and that we've got reliability for operator care stuff going on, so they're picking up on those early warning signs of failures. And I think, to Sean's point, it's the collaboration of those groups that make success happen.
Agree.
Too true. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Jeff. Team, what other questions have you got? Who's got another burning question? Feel free to go chat, come off mute, put your hand up. Got to be a question out there. This is not a good outcomes. What do we got? Who have we got?
Hello.
Hey, Wade.
Hey, Brad. Hey, everyone.
Great to see you. Take the stage, Wade. What have you got?
Yeah, Jeff, I really liked that point, and I'm done a fair bit of root cause, and but I really want to draw on your experience here to go, how do we get this engagement piece? So I think what you said, and this is a clarifying question, you said everyone likes to talk about root cause, but it may not be effective to go after the root cause every time because it can be too much to take on, and you haven't built that confidence. So if I heard you right, I think you said, go for the causes that associated with the top event and focus on the causes that the team can put countermeasures in quickly, and then those ones that maximize the engagement of the workforce. Is that what you said?
Kind of, but what I said, I think you're taking a few bits there. One is building the cause tree. Is we find out we need to know exactly what causes on that first level of the cause tree, what causes directly cause the problem on their own, and there's one caveat to that: what causes directly cause the problem in combination with something else. So we have to finesse those to get until we reach the void. And once we clarify these are all plausible and possible, we're also mythbusters, then we have to say, well, we weren't using chemicals at the time, so that one's out, and this one's out, and this one's out, and then we're only down to these two, but we're going to flesh those out fully, and we look for combination causes along those, and then we're going to get to root causes on those branches. What I said, though, about the root cause is you may have some physical activity that has to take place to stop that root cause on one of the branches. And that might be in a really dirty, hot environment where people just don't feel safe going there to do that activity, so it doesn't get done. That's where I'm saying you might have to come back 2 levels on that branch and say, well, if we just put an automatic drain valve in there, that won't be in play anymore. So we can do that as an action, which eliminates that root cause. Hopefully that answers your question right, Wade.
Yeah, that helps. I think what you've shared helps the team focus on stuff that they can measure as one, and then stuff that they could is based on the root cause, the fact that they can positively trace to get those different outcomes. Yeah, you're actually doing more with less,
Yes.
mucking around. Yeah.
And that's the whole point. We're making it efficient.
And I think team on it, I've been trained in a lot of the root cause models like 8D and ICAM and you name them. The reason I like the cause tree approach that Sirf trained me in years ago was that it shows you the whole system. You don't lose sight of it. The way that you look at the root cause, you don't lose sight of other causal factors. Whereas some of the other models, you can lose sight of elements. It doesn't show the whole system there the whole time. Whereas this approach, you can see the whole system always because it's up there in front of your face. And I think that's the thing I find, Jeff, with that approach. I'll hand over to Andy, mate. I see you got your hand up.
Andy's been in my course, so I'm expecting a tough question here.
It's a bit early in the morning for that, Jeff. No, I'll go in. I'll see how we go. Yeah, I have done the RCA to go, the 12-step. Yeah, really recommend it. It's around capability, actually, Jeff. The question is, do you have some guidance around the skill levels and spread, like depth within an organisation of, who should just be sort of aware of the problem-solving process or root cause analysis process, I should say, and then the deep technical knowledge in how to facilitate and keep people, or not only identify but keep people on track. Making sure we're applying the right tools to the challenge we've got. So, kind of where I'm going is, if you've got an organisation of say 300 people, do you have any sort of guidance around, well, you'd have these practitioners, support, and then participant type things?
Well, I think you need a manager champion who owns it. You need to have champions for each department, and each department has to have their own RCAs or initiatives, whether that's RCA 5Y3 or 5Y. In terms of being trained, I'd say the manager doesn't necessarily need to be trained in RCA. The manager needs to be the recipient of recommendations of what the champions are saying needs to happen to make the plant better. And in my training, I say to people, hands up those who've ever done any sales training before, and I very invariably hardly ever get a hand up, because engineering operations type people don't associate getting money out of managers to fix something as sales. It is absolutely sales. We're just looking at it the wrong way. Yeah. And it's all part of that building confidence. So we need to have the champions of each department organising. They might be trained in RCA, and they've also, that encapsulates their 5-way 3 anyway. And then the supervisor, team leader level get the 5-way 3, and the shop floor might get some 5-way training. And so each level has an opportunity to fix what's in their circle of control and influence then via their circle of influence to whether that's up or to another department to get some help on things that are outside of their circle of control. And they should have in my mind, an active team board that's real and often whiteboard based or paper based, so that people can say it's real and people can come in on different shifts and contribute to it. And then the issues the mid group can't resolve, go to the next group up. So it's like an army, if you like. They've got their battalions, and then they've got the reinforcements that they call in for the more complex problems. And then we're either fixing stuff or making recommendations to the next level up until it gets to the really serious ones, and that's where the managers are making the decisions as to what we can do.
Thanks, Jeff.
On that topic of sales training, Jeff, like I do work with a company called Expression for Growth, and I do sales training at times, right? I get pulled in because I've got a history there. But a lot of the big FMCG companies are now putting operational leaders and other leaders on that training, and it's more angled around influence, how to influence. So it's just interesting. It's great that you said that, Jeff, really insightful. And I'm seeing it start to happen where big companies are putting people on influence training. How do I influence someone? And it's creating great results.
It's funny, isn't it? We've got adults doing this sort of training. You only have to look at a teenager to work out how to influence parents.
Yeah, too true. Think of what's happening at home.
Yeah.
Jim, did I see you've come off mute, mate? Are you gearing up for a question?
Normally I have too much to say, but yeah, I have been nodding violently here for the last half an hour because I've been nodding at Jeff and this methodology for a long time, 20 years. I think it's a real lost art, and I think you started talking about, Jeff, things like process control plans, critical control points, SPC, process capability. They're lost arts, but for me, they're just the lost basics of, I suppose, identifying how we're travelling, and without a standard to gauge how we're travelling to the standard. I think that's I suppose the origins of where we sometimes lose our way. One quote, hopefully I got this right, Jeff. Pain is felt in the consequences and not in the causes. I had to chew that for a bit. I think that was really profound, because I think leaders or those responsible for P&Ls, they're only interested in the consequences.
Yeah.
But if they don't ask for specific questions like, okay, what is the standard? What would we normally expect in this situation? If people are asking that, or what's the standard for how we do that job, or change that thing over, or conduct that job, if we're not asking that question, all we're giving permission is for as many different ways of doing things as there are people doing them.
Yeah.
If you don't have a handle on that stability, problem solving and root cause is just almost impossible anyway. So that was really profound. So one of the things that I've started doing much more of is I've stopped root cause analysis training per se. I find it much more powerful because Vizzy's got nearly 102 sites. If I spend time on the sites, I'm much more interested in actually helping people solve a problem and guiding them through and guiding teams through the use of tools in action rather than PowerPoint death, if you know what I mean. So if a site's got a problem or something that's causing grief, I suppose holding their hand, containing the problem, or using the tools in the right places to help people, as you said, build the confidence on this is how we would use these tools in anger to solve something real, and follow that through, again, holding their hand, helping them, exposing them to the right tools for the right reasons in the right places, I think that's get me a lot more, I suppose, more success, because people remember the success of stabilizing, then solving the problem, and then they're much more likely to remember and use the tools for the next problem, hopefully in a more considered way, or in a slower way, rather than just the sugar hit of just responding to the monthly report or the P&L that dropped a bollock at that time.
Yeah.
So
I think that
this, Jeff, thank you.
Yeah, great points, Tim. And I think what you're talking about, the directors and looking at the P&L, and all they're interested in is the pain. Where did we lose money? And that leads to that behaviour around the consequence side. So people are just trying to lock into this, but they should be asking the questions: well, how did this happen, and how can we make sure it doesn't happen again? Where did it come from? And how can we plug those holes? That's what they need. If they just termed it like that, it would be a different flavour.
Or don't care how you fix it, just fix it kind of thing. With that becomes all sorts of skullduggery.
That might lead to many variations of solutions that will be some in that reactive space and some in the good space. But yeah,
just measure it in a different way next month so that the waste goes away.
I'd say if you're getting results the way you're getting them, that's great. But I'd say you're getting them because you're so passionate about it, and you've become the champion. Pretty hard to become the champion for 100 sites though, in terms of holding people's hands. So,
but hopefully building capability for other champions to do similar things. Build a capability, a deep capability, but allow it. So. Sorry to hog it, but in all of the states now, I'm hopefully trying to grow capability where coaches can coach people through the problem-solving process in a similar way. So 102 sites may become like 30, and then we build a capability and hopefully build a pull from the senior leadership to build more coaches and champions to help in smaller groups. So you build that confidence, capability, and capability from within. But it's a long journey, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the people that I see champion these things the best have the ultimate. I'm not saying go this way, Jim. Just saying they have the ultimate goal is to build other people up at lower levels, build them up so they can support it, so they virtually become redundant and they can go on and do other things.
So just one final point. You talked about capability at different levels. I think it was Andy. What proportion of capability should we have? I think at the very front lines, because people are so kind of familiar with their equipment and this sense of a standard, what is normal? What should the tracking line should be doing when we're in a normal state? If they can be the last bastions of that and making sure that they visualize what common cause looks like, and then I suppose if special cause jumps out of that, if they can do the early bits in terms of, like a first responder, like a paramedic gets to a problem, it contains the issue, defines it with respect to the standard at the time when it's happening. That's so useful then for other people that maybe look at historical data and other things to put that into perspective so that people can get to, well, what was different this time quicker. But I think that we're just such an untapped resource where on the front line where they can play that part so other people can play theirs. And I'm going to stop talking now because...
that's okay. And I think I'll just close out I think the key with the frontline people is getting them to ask that question why and use that 5 why process. And Daniel, for those who don't know, Daniel Kahneman wrote a really good book called Fast Thinking, Slow Thinking. And asking the question why is actually the switch in our mind that takes us from that reactive mode thinking, we could just shoot from the hip and do this, to a more structured, process-oriented thinking. And it's more robust, it's more methodical. and you get to some much better outcomes with 5 whys. So if you haven't seen the book, I highly recommend it. He won a Nobel Prize for it.
And he's talking about our shift in culture to more fast, isn't he? But the need to come back to that slower type thinking and when to use both. Jan's put a question up, Jeff, and it might be our final, we'll see. How does psychological safety impact on problem solving? So we all know that psychological safety is rearing up a lot more.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, Jeff? And what recommendations would you have?
So look, it's a really good question, Jan. So I think it all comes back to what is the culture like when people raise issues or when they have a problem. Are they whacked over the head, or are they coached through? Like, is there a gym there that takes them aside and takes them under their wing and solves it with them so they develop their skill base? Or are they feeling like, if I just don't say anything about it, I'll get to the end of my shift and there will be someone else's problem? So they might not even feel safe to raise an issue because they feel like it'll come back to them as a target. So these are things we have to instill in people as leaders. We have to instill that it's okay to raise issues, and no one's going to get hurt, and no one's going to get in trouble for raising an issue. It's best that we get it on the table and try and resolve it properly and get it in the list of where it is, at least in their priority list, and see what we can do about it. So I think in answer to that, people need to be encouraged to contribute and feel safe that they can contribute. And I think the only way you can get that message out is to convey it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you have posters around that say, we value your contribution or whatever it is, or ideas boxes or whatever it is, but getting contributions back when they do State of the Nation talk or something, or short department talks or whatever, but somehow they need to be able to get the issues they're seeing on the table. And believe me, shop floor people see a lot more issues and are aware of a lot more issues than what they tell people about, because they've probably told people about them a few times before over the years and no one's taken any notice.
Mm. So that impacts psychological safety, doesn't it? Like they then decide just keep quiet, and then the problems keep building. Yeah. So that whole engaging the front line, I guess, Jim, you mentioned it too, like how can you set up the front line to really be able to either do the element they can do themselves and then, draw in the right people from there. So everyone, that's the end of the time. I just wanted to say thank you, Jeff, so much for the knowledge, and everyone knows where Jeff's at. So you know where to get extra support, Sirf Round Tables. And Jeff, thanks for everything you have done and continue to do to help us create a better future, mate. You certainly helped me many, many moons ago and continue to do so. So thank you, Jeff.
Pleasure being here. Thanks very much.
Yeah. So everyone, just one or two quick things upcoming. The community, we got upcoming, Peter Hines is going to come on again for us in April to talk about some work he's been doing on human-based continuous improvement and also the part technology plays in that. And then I think next month we're going to have the head of OC Tenor. OC Tenor's won multiple Shingo prizes and they're coming out of the USA. So we'll have Gary Peterson from the United States coming on to talk about OC Tenor. Guys, this is a company that people strive to get into like crazy and not many do. So the fact that we have Gary willing to let us come and see, because he'll take us on a virtual Gemba, is pretty amazing. So I'm stoked with that. Andy, did you get into OC Tenor when you were over there with the Lean conference recently, or?
No, I didn't. But no, really looking forward to the next catch up, Brad.
Yeah, that'd be great. So, team, the event. Sorry, Jim.
So just me again. I was honoured and privileged enough once upon a time to be given a Shingo bronze medallion when I worked for Vistaprint from Gary Peterson. One of the most amazing places in terms of culture and lean and continuous improvement I've ever been. That's in Utah. Again, couldn't recommend that highly enough.
Yeah, so it's good, guys. And the other one too, to just let you know, is Alex Tio's running a total productive and predictive maintenance event at Farah, where they make parts of the Strike Fighter in Brisbane on February 5th. So if anyone is having trouble with quality and performance around maintenance, or you know someone that is, let them know there's limited spaces left. Like basically anyone that I've spoken to is like, I need help. So there's that workshop. And we're also doing a workshop at Rudd on leading excellence in late Feb. That workshop's just based on the leading excellence book. And Rudd is doing a really good enterprise excellence journey. So they make chains for mining and lifting equipment. So that's another one. If you're interested in it, just go to the Enterprise Excellence Group website or Alex's at KeySense, and you'll be able to check it out. Jeff, thanks again, mate. And thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
We'll catch you soon. See you, everyone. Bye for now. What a great episode. Remember, you can visit the Enterprise Excellence Podcast website, be able to reach out, become part of the community, get to meet some of these great guests yourself for our 1 hour, once a month virtual meeting and podcast recording that we do at the same time. From this episode, there are 2 key takeaways for me. Firstly, just the importance of quality as a foundation to do anything to do with excellence. You know, without that foundation of quality, you're living in chaos, and it's just so hard to move forward and actually make a difference. It's like you're building this excellence journey and trying to get better at whatever the topic is you're focused on, but without that baseline of quality, it's going to fall over. The other aspect then, of course, is root cause analysis, the power of it. A focus on root cause analysis and doing steps like the should gap that Jeff talks about in their root cause training, and then going into proper root cause will actually help build a culture of quality. Because in essence, you're looking at your standard, you're comparing it to what did happen, looking at the gap. If your team or organization doesn't have a standard for that particular important process, well, you're getting near the root cause. But if you go deeper and ask another why is there not a process and why people are not trained, which is often where people get to, you will get to a leadership aspect. You know, what is our beliefs and what are we leading to actually create a culture of quality, root cause analysis, precision that truly creates a better future for all. I've seen it so many times in my career, and I really valued the training with Jeff and the team that I received many years ago, and I recommend it to everyone. And again, if you want to reach out to get involved in these events, be able to ask your own questions, learn from our global experts, see best practice sites through virtual Gambas, go to the Enterprise Excellence Podcast or community website, reach out through contact us or come to me through LinkedIn. Talk soon, everyone. Bye for now.